Like many other Audis, the 2018 SQ5 is positively lousy with tech, and there's a lot to get through, so let's get started. Down here at the bottom, you have something wacky if you're not used to new cars. This is, in fact, the shifter. The P button is kind of located on the front here, which you'll accidentally press a bunch when you're trying to shift gears. Reverse is always up, drive is always down, and neutral is always kind of a half little bump that you never seem to get right the first time either. So now moving up, we have both a touchpad and a dial. This is what you use to control your MMI infotainment that we will walk through in just a moment. The dial is pretty straightforward, no fancy capabilities there. You have toggles on either side for quick navigation to your nav, your telephone, your radio, and your media. Right ahead of that is a very capable touchpad that not only features handwriting recognition, but there's also a bar of favorites up at top so you can get to your radio presets or navigation directions a little bit faster. Moving up from there, we have the climate controls. It's all pretty relatively simple. You got your seat heaters here. You don't have to go through a menu to get to those, which is nice. You have your temperature with some fancy red and blue color on either side. It's your climate control. You probably know what you're doing here. Right underneath your climate control, you have yet another bank of switches, this time mostly dealing with vehicle systems. You have your drive select buttons here, which let you change your modes from comfort, dynamic, individual. You get the idea. You can turn off your auto stop start. You can turn off your traction control, although not all the way, which is kind of a bummer. And you turn off your parking sensors, and there's also a crawl mode that allows you to kind of move at a very slow set speed in the event you're going down a hill and you don't really want it to get out of control. Now moving up here, we have the meat and potatoes of the car, the infotainment system, called MMI in Audi parlance. Using the knob, you can go through a variety of settings. You can change all of your vehicle individual settings. There are 80,000 contextual menus for each of these, so as you're scrolling through, you can bump to the right or left with the dial, find 80 different other things to touch, and then you can go back, forget where you were, forget what you were doing. It's all very complicated, but if this is your personal car and not just one for a week-long loan like me, you can spend some more time and get comfortable, so it'll be a lot easier to do when you're on the road. So you're not kind of hunting back and forth and looking, and then all of a sudden you're upside down in a ditch and everyone's dead. And that's not all. That is just one of the many things you can change with the infotainment system. You can change your sound, in this case the Bang & Olufsen 3D sound system, which is very fancy and part of the $4,000 Prestige package. You can look at your radio. You get AM, FM, and Sirius XM. You can move to your media, which you can do through either USB connection or Bluetooth streaming. Underneath that, you have the telephone menu, which lets you access your phone. You can even use the handwriting recognition to write in a contact name instead of having to search through a giant list of them, which is kind of convenient. Keep scrolling here, and eventually you get past the navigation and map. We've all used the navigation and the map before. You get to Audi Connect, which is Audi's suite of kind of connected services hidden under this little menu setting. You get weather, you get news updates from NPR, you can scroll down, look at local fuel prices, parking information even, or if for some reason you have no idea what's going on in your city, you can hit this city events button, which will take a minute to load, but once it does, it uses the embedded 4G LTE modem to pull in data, and that allows you to look at some local events like this one called Everything is Terrible. Sounds good for me. And then at the last little bit of the infotainment system, you have your Audi smartphone interface, which lets you use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And then at the end, you have settings, which features 40 more contextual menus for you to tweak whatever you want, the ambient lighting, the language, the display brightness, stuff like that. But wait, there is still more. We have Audi's virtual cockpit front and center, which replaces the gauge cluster with a 12-inch configurable screen, also part of the aforementioned Prestige package. Using only the buttons on the left side of the steering wheel here, you are able to change your gauge layouts. You can put your map front and center, so that way you don't have to worry about looking at the screen or trying to navigate through different tabs if you have your radio open. But you can also have your audio here. You can look at your long-term trip memory. You can keep going, look and see what you have that's draining all your energy. Right now it's my seat heating because it's cold out, and the air conditioning also, which seems a little confusing. You can turn on your driver assist systems, and you can kind of just do everything that you could on the infotainment system, but on the gauge cluster. It really reduces distraction and keeps the eye movements to a minimum. Then finally, because that's not enough buttons, you have another bank of buttons over here. You have your rear fog lights, your front fog lights, your headlights, and the switch that lets you turn the head-up display on and off, as well as adjust its height. And that's all the tech in the 2018 Audi SQ5, at least as far as I can tell. Lord knows there's probably 80 other buttons I haven't found yet.